Hello and welcome into another episode of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm your host, Kyle Glaser, coming to you live from San Diego, where the Padres defeated the Atlanta Braves 7-4 in front of the largest opening day crowd in Petco Park history. Another thrilling comeback victory for a Padres team that we've seen a lot of that from over the last year or so. Padres were down 4-3 going into the seventh inning and scored 4 runs to take the lead. The bullpen took it from there, and the Padres won their first opening day game since 2021. A lot of standout players today. Fernando Tatis, 3 for 4, 2 runs scored, 2 stolen bases at a leadoff spot. Manny Machado, 2 for 3, 2 doubles, 2 stolen bases. Jackson Merrill, 4 RBIs. Gavin Sheets, who we've talked a lot about on the show, pinch hit game-tying home run in the seventh inning in his first at-bat as a member of the Padres. And the bullpen, final 5 relievers combined for 5 1/3 hitless innings to shut down the Braves bullpen, give the Padres offense time to come back, which they eventually did. This was a really, really impressive victory by the Padres. One of the things above the individual performances that really stood out about today is just that resilience. And Mike Schultz talked about this post game, how this is a team that it doesn't matter what the deficit is, they feel like they're always in the ball game. And we know that has not always been true with the Padres. For most of the 2010s, this was a club that if they were down 2-0 in the third inning, the game was over. And that was mostly a talent issue. But even as recently as the 2023 team that we all know underachieved, that team had no fight. That team lost its composure late in games. They started getting big, trying to play hero ball, really bad approaches toward the end of games, expanding the zone. And that was why they lost so many one-run games. It wasn't luck. It was bad approaches, bad everything. This team last year, we saw early on, was never out of the ballgame. They were going to fight. They were going to come back. They were going to keep their composure. And they were going to do little things that ultimately added up in the end. And we saw that happen again today on opening day. The Padres came back again and again and again. They went down 1-0 in the top of the first inning. Jackson Merrill gives them the lead in the bottom of the first inning. They go back down 3-2 after an Ozzie Albies 2-run homer. They come back and tie it again. Again, Jackson Merrill with an RBI ground out. They go down 4-3 and they come back again. 3 times they trailed in today's game. All 3 times they came back to tie and eventually take the lead at the very end when it mattered most. So, and we saw, I talk about the little things adding up. One of the things Mike Schilt talked about post-game and has talked about throughout his tenure as the Padres manager, and really just comes from his pure baseball background. He was a scout, he was a high school coach, he coached the minors forever. He understands the little things that put pressure on opposing teams and that add up over the course of a game to help your team win. The Padres kept putting pressure on the Braves. They stole 5 bases today. There were a lot of first to thirds. We saw aggressive leads. It kind of got, some of their pitchers a little bit off. You could see. The other thing too is just good approaches the entire way through. Continue to use the middle of the field, using the whole field. Again, no one got too big. No one tried to play hero. It was just a really, really good game all around, in which, again, the Padres maintained their composure. They kept putting pressure on the Braves on the base pass. We saw some great defensive plays. Brandon Lockridge robbed Ozzie Albies of a potential second home run with a leaping catch at the short wall in left field just in front of the Western Mail Supply Co. building. We saw Jackson Merrill go up and make a catch to at least rob extra bases, if not a home run. So again, defense, base running, good approaches, staying up through the middle of the field. Those are the things that add up over the course of a game and result in winning baseball. And that's what happened today. The Padres went out and executed in all facets. And they really were not off to a good start. I think it's important to kind of take it from the top. Michael King, making his first opening day start, really, really struggled, pitched 2 2/3 innings before he was pulled. He allowed as many base runners, 8, as he got outs, 8. Faced 16 batters, 8 outs, 8 base runners. Did not have his control today. 4 walks, 2 wild pitches. And when he did throw strikes, he was very hittable, gave up 4 hits, gave up a home run. I mentioned Ozzie Albies. It's a 91 fastball, belt high down the middle, 91 mile an hour fastball, belt high down the middle. Big leaguers aren't going to miss that. He just did not have his control today, did not have his stuff. But the Padres stayed close. They never really let it get out of hand. Again, they kept coming back. They kept, putting pressure on the Braves. And the biggest thing was after the Braves retook the lead, after Austin Riley homered off Alec Jacob, the bullpen just came in and shut it down. It was a 5-headed monster of relievers that made sure that the Padres would not have to start chasing 3 runs, 4 runs, 5 runs. They kept it a one-run game in terms of their deficit all the way until the Padres were able to come back. They bought them time. Yuki Matsui gave him an inning plus. Jeremiah Estrada came in, gave him an inning plus. Going multiple innings, both those guys, that was huge. Wandy Peralta, Jason Adam, Robert Suarez. The five of them combined to retire 16 of the 19 Braves batters they faced. The only base runners they allowed were 2 walks and an error by Xander Bogaerts. 5 1/3 hitless innings to finish the game for this Padres bullpen, those 5 relievers. Again, just a really, really great job by them. So you have, again, the bullpen stepping up to stop the bleeding, which is huge, gives the offense time. We talked about defense coming up big, making big plays. And again, not everything was perfect. Xander Bogaerts failed to turn a double play early. That led to the Braves' first run. He also made an error in the 9th. His arm strength is a concern. His 2 throws were at 80 miles an hour and 79.6 miles per hour, which are bottom of the scale throws for a major league shortstop. It's something that we're going to have to watch over the course of the season. But again, bad plays happen. There's some defensive miscues. Elias Diaz was not looking great behind the plate early on. But, you have defensive miscues. Your starting pitcher gets hit around, can't find the strike zone. He gets hit around when he does. Bad things happen. But the Padres, they never rolled over. They never gave up. They just kept fighting, kept going. And again, it's that mindset, that resilience that helped them be so successful last year. And that's a mark of a good team, that even when things aren't going their way, they stay in it, they stay focused, they stay engaged, they keep the energy up, they keep the effort level up. And ultimately, more often than not, if you do that, you're going to find some games where you can break through and have a nice comeback. And we saw that today. I want to go to the offense. We talked about, the pitching staff, Michael King, kind of struggling at the beginning. Jackson Merrill, there's been a lot of discussion about, will there be a sophomore slump? Is this a situation where, even if it's only a half-season sophomore slump? We saw Corbin Carroll go through one. We saw Julio Rodriguez go through one. I mean, superstar players, and it's no knock on them to go through a sophomore slump. It happens. Jackson Merrill, first at bat, facing Chris Sale, who is always vicious, really, on anybody, but especially left on left with his low slot. Falls behind the count 1-2. Slider from Chris Sale, and Merrill was caught out in front of it, but he was able to keep his barrel through the zone and just poke it into center field. Boom, 2-run single. It was a very, very, very impressive hit by Jackson Merrill, given the count, given who was on the mound, given the situation, runners in scoring position. And again, he got fooled a little bit. He was out front on his front foot, but he still had the ability to just keep the barrel back and poke it into center field. And that's a really, really impressive, mature hitter. It's really impressive skill-wise. Just one of those little things. Again, same deal. The Padres go down 3-2 after Ozzie Albies 2-run homer. Jackson Merrill's up in a situation again facing Chris Sale. Runner on third, less than 1 out. You have to put that ball in play. You cannot strike out there. It's something where you have people who don't really know the game saying a strikeout is no worse than any other out. Baseball is such a situational game, and that is a situation. Runner on third, less than 1 out. You cannot strike out. That ball has to be put in play. And he did it. Fell behind the count, 0-1, got a pitch in the outer half, put it in play, RBI ground out, got the tying run in. That run has to get in. Jackson Merrill made it happen. Mike Schultz highlighted that postgame as well. It's a little thing, but it makes a big difference. If he goes up there swinging for the fences in that moment, trying to play hero, there's runners on the corners, probably not a lot is going to happen. You have to make sure you get that ball in play, whether it's a ground out, whether you get it in the air. And he did. And that was really, really, really critical. Braves go back up 4-3. And then Gavin Sheets has his big moment. And we've talked a lot about Gavin Sheets on this show, about how coming over from Chicago, a place that has really failed to properly develop hitters. And this is important because, look, every single team in baseball knows the team that they can take advantage of, or the team where there's low-hanging fruit. It's kind of the old saying that, every veteran poker player knows who the sucker is at the table. Every team knows who's out there they can take advantage of. When Dave Stewart was the general manager of the Diamondbacks, every team knew he was someone they could take advantage of. And Dave Stewart was a fantastic pitcher and a great pitching coach for the Padres 98 team. But the stories that are out there about him as a GM, I mean, it was the type of stuff that's just like, how does that happen? Not knowing about international signing rules, signing Yohan Lopez for a huge bonus, not even knowing that meant they'd be limited the next 2 years to signing people for no more than $300,000. The Dansby Swanson trade, the story about the Brad Ziegler trade involving one of the Basabe brothers, and not knowing there were two Basabes and not knowing which one he actually wanted and being caught flat-footed and picking the wrong one in a panic. I mean, these are all things that happened. And, it's just something where teams knew he was the GM they could take advantage of. You go to pitching development, teams knew the Pirates were the organization with a lot of low-hanging fruit that pitchers coming out of there were not going to be fully developed to the best of their ability. And you could probably get them for somewhat of a discount, and you were going to get better performance out of them. Garrett Cole, Tyler Glasnow, Joe Musgrove, who we've seen. And the teams know that the White Sox are the team that when it comes to position players, it's low-hanging fruit. The White Sox have consistently failed to get the most from very talented hitters for years. You look at Luis Robert, you look at Yohan Moncada, you look at Andrew Vaughn, you look at Eloy Jimenez. All these guys are talented and can hit. And a lot of them showed flashes, but they were never able to sustain it. And I had a conversation with a Padres front office official where he's like, yeah, the White Sox, everyone knows they don't do things correctly. They don't teach things the right way. They don't develop hitters. They recognize it's low-hanging fruit. And that brings us to Gavin Sheets. Before the game, I spoke to Gavin a little bit about, some of the things he'd done and, what had changed with the Padres. And, one of the things he mentioned was on his own, he was working on just some mechanical changes, a lot of posture and load stuff just to get into a better position to fire. So some of the mechanical stuff was him on his own. And the biggest thing he said the Padres imparted upon him was the approach piece of it. So the mechanics were more him, but the Padres were the approach piece. And they have talked to him a lot about, hey, use the big part of the field, gap to gap. You have the power to leave the yard anywhere. You don't need to be a pure pull guy. I mean, no hitter should be a pure pull guy. But for him especially, he doesn't need to, stay up through the middle of the field and things will work out. And we started in that spring training. And then we saw it again in a huge moment, 7th inning, facing Hector Neris, pinch hitter, Padres down 4-3, Sheets leading off. Game-tying home run to dead center. And that was the key part of it. It was dead center. Again, the Padres have talked to him about stay up through the middle of the field, gap to gap. You have the strength to leave any part of the park. And that's exactly we saw what happened. Got an elevated fastball from Hector Neris and took it out to dead center. It was a great moment for him. Again, just talking to him before the game. He also talked about just how refreshing it was, coming from a place like Chicago where, and that was the word he used, refreshing, where, again, he talked about he has a lot of friends in Chicago. He's grateful for his time there, but look, 121 losses, it's a drag. It takes a toll on everyone, and having a fresh start and just being somewhere where he's in a clubhouse with, a group of guys like Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, and a team that was in the playoffs last year. It's just such a different dynamic. And he used the word refreshing multiple times. The Padres got a good one here. I've talked a lot about Gavin Sheets being a potential 20 home run guy coming out of Wake Forest. Was a top 10 prospect in the White Sox system. Again, good hitter, can hit for average, hit for power, but was just in a bad spot in Chicago. And, he's still relatively young. He's in his 20s. Theoretically, he's in his prime years still. Getting him in just to a more functional situation with better hitting coaches where they're actually going to teach the right things, I think you're going to get some value there. And this was just a great, great, great moment for him. Again, pinch hit home run. And I saw a couple Padres officials after the game and they were ecstatic. They were giddy. They felt like they were really happy to get Gavin Sheets because they felt like they were going to get someone who could be a really good player if they just, again, in their own words, just teach him the right things, because he wasn't going to be taught the right things in Chicago. Every team knows who the teams are they can take advantage of and where the low-hanging fruit is. And right now, that is White Sox position players. So that was a huge, huge moment. And then following it up, we saw the Padres again. So, it's the big home run to tie, but after that, they just kept it going. It was Elias Diaz with a single, Fernando Tatis Jr. with a single as well. These guys weren't up there just, hacking, swinging for the fences, back-to-back singles. Luis Arias gets the pitch that he can put in the air, and he, gets it deep enough into right field for a sacrifice fly for the go-ahead run. Again, Schilt talked a lot about, the big moment, the home run, but it's the little things too. Okay, we've tied it, and now boom, single sack fly, just continuing to put the ball in play. Be aggressive, make the defense work, make the pitchers work. Don't make it easy on them. where you're just swinging for the fences, trying to, be a hero, keep putting the ball in play, make things happen. After that, we saw Manny Machado come up and hit a double, again, ground ball down the third base line. It wasn't, like he smoked it, but he got a pitch to put in play, and he did. Brought home Tatis, and then after the Xander Bogaerts intentional walk, excuse me. I thought one of the most interesting moments of the game was Padres up 6-4. You have Manny Machado on second, Xander Bogaerts on first, one out, and the Padres called for a double steal with two guys in their 30s who are not really known for running, and the Braves were completely caught off guard. Machado stole third. I mean, I don't think there's many scenarios where you'd think Manny Machado's going to steal third base over the course of the season. Stole third, Bogarts behind him took second. And then again, that sets up Jackson Merrill for a sac fly to make it 7-4. So you're getting an extra run by doing the little things. Double steal with Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts. Again, no one would have thought that was going to happen, but that's what the Padres are doing. They're going to continue putting pressure on defenses. They're going to continue putting the ball in play, going first to third, stealing bases. And those things add up. All those extra bases start adding up into extra runs. And it's good, smart, aggressive baseball that way too many teams are way too risk averse to doing with, various analytical models about run probabilities, but they're missing the point that if you continue to apply pressure on opposing teams, eventually you will break through. And the Padres showed that today, and it was just a good sign what kind of team they're going to be this year, and they're going to carry over the best traits from last year. And that includes a lockdown bullpen at the end. We saw last year, especially when you had Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, they brought in Jason Adam and Tanner Scott and Robert Suarez. I mean, the back of that bullpen at the end of games last year was locked down. Suarez went through a little bit of a rough stretch, but on the whole, it was a great bullpen. Tanner Scott obviously left in free agency, but you still have Estrada, you still have Morejon, you still have Adam, you still have Suarez. And again, they didn't even use Morejon. Today, it was, Yuki Matsui and Wandy Peralta, two veteran lefties who, at the end of last year had kind of been, demoted a little bit to kind of low leverage guys, not anyone that was going to go into a game in a high leverage situation. And they didn't pitch a whole lot down the stretch just because the Padres were kind of fighting for their playoff lives pretty much to the end of the season. Both of them coming out, pitching well. Again, Estrada comes out, does what he does. Adam comes out, has, 1, 2, 3, 8. Robert Suarez comes in, ends it. There was a little bit of drama just because Xander Bogaerts had a throwing error. Then there was a walk. So the Braves actually had the tying run up to the plate with one out, but struck out Marcell Ozuna, got Jared Kelenic to ground out. I actually thought the Ozuna at bat for Suarez, again, showed a little bit of veteran composure that was really nice because Suarez struck Ozuna out looking and the umpire missed the call. And that could have been a frustrating moment where Suarez, gets frustrated, and then Marcell Ozuna is very dangerous. If you make one mistake pitch, boom, that game is tied. Suarez said, okay, no problem, came back, got Marcell Ozuna striking out swinging the very next pitch. So again, the composure, the aggressiveness, we're seeing it everywhere. And that's very much a Mike Shildt kind of team. He's going to be aggressive. He wants to put his foot on your throat. He's going to force you to beat them. He's not going to play stagnant baseball. Mike Shildt has an edge to him, and his teams play with an edge to them, and that's a good thing. So all in all, just a really, really good win for the Padres, 7-4 over the Braves. Again, it's one game. There's 161 more to go. A lot can and will change over the course of the season, and you never want to overstate what one game means, whether it's opening day or a game in mid-May or mid-June. At the same time, it's always nice to open up on the right foot. And again, it's just really good to see a team that had so many positive traits last year carry them over to this year. That resilience, that aggressiveness, that composure in late game situations, and that ability to come back from any deficit or anything knocking them down. Again, Michael King, their starter, not pitching well. Their first reliever, Alex Jacob coming in, giving up a bomb. The Braves making a lot of hard contact early. It was something where, for the first couple innings, the Braves looked like the better team. They were playing better baseball. And then the Padres, again, made some great catches in the outfield. And they were moving on the bases. They put some balls in play. And as soon as Chris Sale leaves the game, get into that Braves bullpen, they struck. So we'll see again what happens tomorrow, game 2. Dylan Cease will take the ball for the Padres at 6:40 p.m. Pacific time. But again, any win is a good win. An opening day win in front of the largest opening day crowd in Petco Park history makes it a little extra sweet, especially great atmosphere all around. So Padres are 1-0, and they will see what they're able to do the rest of this weekend series. This has been another episode of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Go ahead and give us a like, a review. It helps us. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, whatever platform you're watching and listening on. I'm Kyle Glaser. We will be back on Monday with Mike Cameron to recap the entire Brave series and look ahead to the Padres series against the Cleveland Guardians. Enjoy Padres baseball this weekend. We'll see you on Monday.